Let's move on to solving quadratic equations where the coefficient of x squared is 1. Well, that's a mouthful of a title, isn't it? Sorry about that, but that's what it is. So in the last video, the equation was already factorised. That won't normally be the case. That's normally your job to do. But you have done this with quadratic expressions, so we should be fine. Okay, not a lot more difficulty than what you've already done. So let's make sure we understand what we're doing. What does coefficient mean? It's the number in front of a letter. Okay, so in 3x, it's the 3. And that's telling you that we've got 3 x's. Okay, how many x's we've got? If I have 5x squared, then the number of x squared that I've got is 5, and 5 is the coefficient of x squared. All right, as I always bang on about Cornell notes, by writing questions here, which I answer here, and I can cover that up, so I'm only looking at the question, and then I check that I've got the right answer. I can do self-quizzing. I'm making flashcards as I'm going along. All right, I'm getting double the benefit for the same amount of effort. I think it's really, really powerful and well worth you doing this. Okay, so here's a question. Solve x squared add 6x minus 16 equals 0 by factorising. So just point out that the question is telling us what to do. It's saying do factorising, which should imply to you there are other ways of answering this question. But if you choose those, you aren't going to get full marks because they've told you how they want you to do it. Right, so how will I do it? Well, I'm going to write out the equation like so. That's what I'm using in the question. I would generally recommend that when you're doing algebra, you write down what it is that you're using from the question. Now, factorising is to do with multiplication, isn't it? So we said factorise means find two things that multiply to make. It's to do with multiplication, so I am going to use a multiplication grid. So I'll just quickly draw one here. Nicer if I used a ruler, but that's okay. Now, I don't know how much you remember from when we were doing these with expressions, and if you really don't remember, it's worth going back, having a look at the videos, maybe trying some questions again. But x squared can be written into that box straight away, and the number can go straight into this box without any further thought. Notice it's not 16, it's negative 16. These two boxes are a little bit more complicated. I'm going to be leaving those blank for the moment. Between them, they will make 6x. Now, x squared can only be made by doing x times by x. So I'm going to put x here and here. I know x times x is x squared, and that is fine. Negative 16, there are a lot of different choices as to how I make that. Now, for the time being, I'm going to ignore the fact that it's negative 16 and treat it just as 16. I always say, when working with negative numbers, sort out the size of your answer first, then sort out the sign. Now, 16 is made by multiplying whatever number is here by whatever number is here. Let's have a look and see what the possibilities could be. 16 could be made by doing 1 times 16. It could be made by doing 2 times 8. It could be made by doing 4 times 4. Now I know that I've found all the factor pairs for 16, all the possible ways of multiplying whole numbers together to get 16 as an answer. How do I know that? Because I started with 1 times by the number itself. I moved on to 2 and found out how many 2's go into 16. I thought about 3, realised it didn't go in. I moved on to 4. 4 times by how many times does 4 go into 16? 4. And what's happened is, as I've worked up through the smaller numbers, I've worked down through the bigger numbers at the same time, and they've met in the middle. There is no space where there could be another factor. So I know I've found all the factors of 16. The numbers I want are in here somewhere. Now, it's not 16, it's negative 16. So what that means is that I want two numbers from here that subtract to make this middle number. All right, two numbers that when I take one away from the other, I get 6. Well, that's not 1 and 16, and it's not 4 and 4. It's 2 and 8. Because this is minus, they need to subtract to make the middle number. If this was positive, they would need to add to make the middle number. Okay, you've done this before. So I know then that my numbers are 2 and 8. So I'm going to put a 2 here and I'm going to put an 8 here. If I put them the other way around, that's perfectly fine. Nobody's worried about that. So 2 times x would give me 2x in this box. X times 8 would give me 8x in this box. I've sorted out the size of my two numbers, and now I need to sort out the sign of my two numbers. In order to multiply and get a negative answer, one of these has to be negative and one of them has to be positive. And they're going to combine to make 6x. So 8x and 2x somehow are going to make 6x. Well, that would work if it was minus 2x. 8x add negative 2x would make 6x. So this is minus 2x, which means this must be minus 2. And then I can see that these two numbers here combine to make this number. All right. Now, as a way, an easy way of remembering it, all right, this sign here, this sign here matches the bigger of the two numbers. So positive here goes with the 8, not with the 2. Right, so what have I got? Well, I have got then x take away 2, copying what's here, times by x, add 8, copying here. And what I'm doing is I'm replacing the original left-hand side of the equation, x squared add 6x take away 16, by these two pairs of brackets. So replacing them by x take away 2 times by x add 8. So if I've replaced this by this, it must still be equal to 0. And now I'm at the same position as I was at the start of the previous video. I've got two numbers that multiply together to make 0. So either the first number equals 0 or the second number equals 0. If it's the first number that equals 0, then x is 2. And if it's the second number that equals 0, then x is negative 8. And remember, I get two solutions here. I get two answers to these equations. Right, here's one for you to have a go at. You see that? Move it up a bit. Have a go at that. Pause the video. I'll show you how to do it when you've had a go yourself. Right, so I like to start by pulling out from the question what I'm going to use. So that's that equation. I know I'm factorising, so I'm working with multiplication. I draw a multiplication grid. The x squared term goes straight into the top left-hand box. The number term goes straight into the bottom right-hand box. x squared is made by doing x times x, and negative 14, or 14 as I'm thinking about at the moment, is made by doing some multiplication. It might be 1 times 14, it might be 2 times 7, try 3, it doesn't go in, try 4, it doesn't go in, try 5 and 6, they don't go in, and then I've met the big numbers, so there's no space for any more factors. Those are all the factors of 14. Now, I'm looking for the pair that subtract. This is telling me to do a takeaway. Subtract to make the middle number 5. I need two numbers that are 5 apart. Got to be those, hasn't it? So I put a 2 here and a 7 here. 2 times x is 2x. X times 7 is 7x. They're multiplying together to make a negative number, so one of them is positive, one of them is negative. Which is it? Well, put the positive sign, this sign, with the bigger number. So plus 7 plus 7x, which means this must be a negative number. All right. So, what have we got? We've got x, take away 2, copy these, times by x, add 7, copy these. Doesn't matter if you've got it the other way round. Does matter if you've got plus 2 and negative 7, or negative and negative. That would be wrong. Okay, x minus 2 times by x plus 7. Something times something is 0. Well, that means that either the first something is 0 or the second something is 0. If it's x take away 2, that's 0. X is 2. And if it's x add 7, that's 0. Then x is negative 7, giving us two solutions. Let's go with the power of 2 here. Do you want me to say add 2 on both sides? Take away 7 on both sides? Not necessary if you feel confident without it. You can put it in if you want. Right, so what are we doing? We're looking for a pair of numbers that multiplies to make the end number, 14 in this case. And it's got to add to make the middle number. Now, I've put add in brackets. Technically, they are adding. So I'm doing 7x add negative 2x makes 5x, positive 5x. But it's easier to think of it as being 7 take away 2 here. So technically, it's adding. It might be easier to think of it as being add if this is positive and take away if this is negative. All right. They've got to make the middle number the coefficient of x. And remember, if two numbers multiply to make 0, one of them is 0. So this, for me, this is the magic step. Something times something is 0. One of them's got to be 0. It's like witchcraft. Right, there you go. Have a go at some questions. Come back to me. Let me know if you've had any problems that you want me to sort out. Or, better still, tell me how well you got on.